This is a Film Stories original podcast.
At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's learning environments are designed for supportive networking and collaboration. With over 330 academic programs, GCU provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
We made this.
Welcome back, everybody, to the X-Cast. As ever, the truth is in here. I'm your host today, Carl Sweeney, and you are back with us for Fight the Future Minute. This is our coverage of minute 104 of the film, staggering towards the end. This minute begins at the 1 hour 43 minute mark as Mulder and Scully's escape from the creature concludes. And there's little respite for them, I'm afraid, because this minute ends with them just starting to run for their lives, as we will discuss. And to discuss this minute, I'm joined by Marlene Stemme. Hey, Marlene.
Hey, Carl.
How's it going? It's good to talk to you, actually. It's been ages since we've been on a podcast together, I think. I don't know, was it back on the 24-hour show? I don't know, maybe it was.
That's what I think. I think it was early in the 24-hour show, probably maybe season 2 discussion as well. But definitely,
Yep.
That September 2018 since we've recorded together. So good to talk to you, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. We're going to talk about this pretty exciting sequence. And it was interesting to hear from you just off air, just before we started recording, that this whole section of the film is your favourite of Fight the Future. This is your favourite part of the film. Is that right?
It is. It's really the whole rescue sequence. So Mulder, as soon as he gets, going for Antarctica to rescue Scully, through the minutes that we have upcoming, that's by far my favorite part of the film. I like this, I like the rescue motif. I like that he's going to get Scully. I like the sort of subterranean going into the underworld and coming back out, all of that and the mood of it. Even though Scully is not really conscious for most of it, I like them, I think. I just think it's a really good, it's exciting and it's more absorbing to me. I like the rest of the movie as well, but this is my favorite part, so I'm happy to be talking about it.
Yeah, no, I like this sequence. I think it's exciting too. I was interested that you said that's your favourite part of the movie by far, though. That's an interesting kind of qualifier. Why does it stand out so much, then?
I think that there is a lot of the movie, and again, I do like it, but when I'm watching it, I feel like I'm a little more critical of it. And sometimes there are parts when the characters are giving each other exposition, or I feel like they're talking about their characters and maybe behaving as the characters, but they're not embodying the characters as much as they are in this sequence, I suppose. I don't know. To me, it's more absorbing and it's more, I don't know. I feel more immersed in it. I'm not very great at explaining why, but to me, it's that part of the movie that's the most mythological in a deep way, I would say. So not just following the show's mythology or following a plot, but really getting at something that's a little more ancient, I would say, a little more lasting, if that makes sense. Even though a lot of the parts that I've recorded, to kind of back up a bit, have been like more Mulder running on the ice, Mulder crawling around underground, those sorts of things that don't have more than one character, so there's no dialogue, and it's a lot of kind of very isolated action. There's still something about it that's really authentic, I think. And that really, to me, is kind of the heart of that X-Files, in that deeper mythological way.
I hadn't really thought about it like that, but you mentioned exposition back there, and there's definitely not much exposition in these minutes we've got coming up. So
no.
Let me just briefly outline what happens in this particular minute. So the first few seconds are Mulder and Scully. They're still approaching the surface. They've been fleeing from the creature. I think they get there, and Mulder gets Scully to her feet, and by the end of this minute, that surface, it's beginning to collapse. Mm-hmm. We know it's the UFO coming up. They don't know that yet. So yeah, Marlene, what struck you about this minute, or what would you like to discuss, I guess?
One thing that I think is that we've just seen Mulder and Scully climbing through the vent and climbing up to the surface. So you're seeing them resurfacing after a long time underground. I mean, certainly a longer time for Scully, but I feel like we were down in there with Mulder for quite a while as well, because it was a really intense situation. And I think, to your previous question, that's another thing that I like, is I think the sense of time goes by differently during this part, because you do have that sense of being in there with him, being submerged sort of. So there's that aspect of it. And then a lot of the things that stand out to me are the sensory things and how Mulder and to some degree Scully react to that. So, they're pulling themselves up. You see and hear all of this steam and the geysers that are starting to emerge. And then, Mulder sees the ice cracking and is kind of trying to yank Scully to her feet and so forth. And they start to run. And then, for one thing, and this is so Mulder, he stops again. He had stopped before when they were escaping to look back at the alien. And then you're kind of like, get going. Time is of the essence. And here he stops while he's dragging her away to look back at the breaking ice that's right under their feet. So there's that, frustration at Mulder. Like, what I wrote in my notes is, why must he always look back? And then with that, you hear the sound of the ice cracking, which I thought sounded great, so it's coming to get him.
Yeah, it's very effectively put together, this sequence, I think. I've just got a few things that I've picked up from the commentary tracks. As I said before, there's 2 commentary tracks that are available for Fight Future. They talk about how this whole sequence, I think, was cut down from the script. It was meant to be much more elaborate.
Okay.
I think things like Mulder and Scully running along the top of the UFO and a wall of ice at one point kind of coming after them, stuff like that. And they just kind of pared it down. I guess cost was one factor. They talk about how this was all done on a stage. Mm-hmm. And there were some CG backgrounds. I think there was some disagreement on the most recent commentary because I suppose it's recorded, quite some distance away from the filming. But that's what they kind of settled on, I think. And for that reason, I think Rob Bowman talks about how it was one of the most challenging sequences in the movie. Because so much green screen and various things like that. So I thought it was interesting. I could see that it must have been a big technological feat,
Yeah, and it seemed like, because I was reading in the book about the making of the movie, how they had to do that on the soundstage and then do the green screen and composite the special effects later, So for this initial part when they're up on the surface, it's interesting to think about how that would be a blend of the special effects and then them just kind of on a soundstage. And then they talked about how they built the platform so they could be underneath it and have the geysers going off and things like that.
What was, I don't think I've ever seen that making of book. Is that worth, is that all fans should run out and buy that? I guess secondhand these days. But
definitely, I don't know how you would find it new. I mean, possibly, but it's the making of the X-Files Fight the Future. And I think it was released around the time of the movie, I want to say. I should remember this. But it was kind of a companion volume. Yeah, copyright 1998 by 20th Century Fox Film Corporation. So it's definitely worth, reading, and they have pictures from the movie and then also some set design things that are really interesting. And some of the sort of schematics on how they, art department type schematics on how they were going to film everything. And it's interesting. It's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, I think I should try and find a copy of that somewhere, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll confess, Marlene, I don't have many more notes about this particular minute. I mean, just that it's very effective. It does what it sets out to do, I think. But did you have anything else that you noticed?
That's pretty much most of what I noticed, I would say. Them kind of starting to run away, and then just that massive surface starting to implode the ice breaking as they're running away. And they're more of the thing. I don't want to do all the behind the scenes things for the first minute because they're kind of progressive as we go. So I think that's probably it. Yeah,
that's totally fair. I mean, I was interested by, this is the first minute I've done in a while. The first one in Antarctica. So I've been reading about Antarctica this morning, and I just wanted to throw some facts at you, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd love that.
These are from livescience.com, just in case people want to go to the article I've looked at. See what you think about these, Marlene. So, the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was registered on July 21st, 1983 at Antarctica's Vostok Station. I don't know if you want to pull a number out the air, like in Fahrenheit, what you think the coldest temperature ever recorded might be.
In Fahrenheit? Let's see.
Yeah. To 2 decimal places, please.
I'm going to say negative 148.23 degrees Fahrenheit.
Ooh, you're not a million miles away. It was minus 128.56 degrees Fahrenheit.
128 was actually my second choice.
Oh, I don't know. And actually, if people want to convert that, that's minus 89.2 degrees Celsius. So there we go. Yeah. Some other facts. So the dry valleys of Antarctica are the driest place on Earth, with low humidity and almost no snow or ice cover. On average, Antarctica is the windiest continent. Winds in some places of the continent can reach 200 miles an hour, which is 320 kilometers per hour. If people want to convert. Antarctica is home to about 70% of the planet's fresh water and 90% of the planet's freshwater ice. And just finally, the average thickness of Antarctic ice is about 1 mile. So I don't know. What do you make of all that?
I think it's really interesting. I think that we see some of the extremeness of the climate in, some of the minutes of this, but perhaps not to that degree. And I think that the cold and also the dryness, it's not maybe represented as severely as it might be in Mulder and Scully's appearance when they get back from Antarctica, but I guess that's the movies. They're not going to look as chafed as they would be.
It's a very apt use of the location, I think, isn't it?
I do too.
It embodies the idea that, Mulder would go to the ends of the earth to save Scully, I think. And I like that sort of usage of it, yeah.
I do too.
All right, Marlene, I think we're just about done here for minute 104. You'll be back with me for minute 105, which in which this sequence continues. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, me too.
Great stuff, yeah. So until our next minute, listeners, remember, as always, trust no one.
Elsewhere on We Made This. The giddy carousel of pop.
So there's just one thing we need to know. Where were you on the 13th of July 1985?
I definitely watched the whole of Live Aid, sat 2 inches away from the telly. My mum and my stepdad and my stepsister coming in and out and trying to prise me away from the telly and not really managing.
I was in Wembley. I took a day off work. They didn't believe I was going. I had to show them the ticket.
Went to a dog show at Malvern. And saw Auntie Sandra and Uncle Jeff.
I was there. Me and a school friend went. My mum and dad drove us down. They had a day in London. We went to the concert.
The Movie Palace.
So, Carl, what is White Heat about for you?
For me, it's about where the gangster genre is at this point in time. And I think one of the interesting things to look at with gangster films is always like, how do they take the temperature of the time that they're made? So I suppose it comes at a very interesting time in terms of globally, doesn't it? You had the proclamation of the People's Republic of China, you had the Soviet Union testing the atomic bomb, stuff like that, So there's something interesting about this film, which ends with this big explosion at the chemical factory, which comes along at this time of nuclear tension.
Between the Notes.
I think it's important to remember throughout the 1990s into the early 2000s, there were loads and loads of chill-out albums that were released, repeatedly. They were all over the place. My dad always used to collect those. He used to buy them. And Morricone was always on those, which is another sign of how remarkable he was. He could cross over into the mainstream populist sphere, and the score for The Mission was always on those albums, particularly Gabriel's oboe, which is an interesting story. I looked this up. So Jeremy Irons plays the character of Gabriel in the movie, and he performs the oboe. Well, he mimes playing the oboe in the film, and then that's obviously overdubbed with the music.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.